ever been assigned to a project where you were asked to develop a specific project procedure, document, presentation, or report, but you didn't know exactly how? Hi, I am GHORBANI. I'm the founder and director of Project Control Academy. Welcome to another episode of Project Control Mastery Training. You know, most people are, despite their level of experience or expertise, when they are asked to develop a project procedure, a presentation, document, or report, they are puzzled at, what to put in that report. There are a lot of things going in their mind, but they don't know exactly how to put that on paper. But the moment you give them a framework, a structure, a component of that report, for them it's just easy, it's just a matter of filling in the blanks. Let me share with you a story that happened to me a few years ago in one of the corporate employments that I had. I remember I was asked to come to the office of the business unit manager. And when I went there, I saw the business unit manager sitting with the safety manager. And I was wondering, oh my God, why I'm called to that meeting? Did I do something wrong? Why the safety manager is there? So when we sat down for the meeting, the business unit manager asked me to help the safety manager to develop a presentation and training material for training the entire business unit on the company's safety procedure. My first response to that request was, thank you for considering me for that, for this initiative, but as you know, my background is project controls. I'm not an expert in safety. And as I was talking, the business unit manager interrupted me immediately and said, yes, I know, but you're a great trainer. You can develop a presentation on safety and train people on safety as well. And I was thinking, really? What? Me? I can teach even safety? Anyways, what happened, to make the long story short, in that meeting, the business unit manager, safety manager, and myself came up, kind of brainstorm and came up with different topics or titles that needs to go into that 1 hour presentation for the safety training. And they both did a great job on coming up with a good structure of what they want to see in that training. And they gave me the list of topics along with a 1,000-page procedure to go ahead and develop the training material. So what do you think? Did I do it? Yes, you bet, I did it. And guess what? I only had 1 week to develop that training. It was easy because they did a great job in coming up with the component of that report. And for me, it was just referring back to the safety manual and extracting information from there and filling in the blanks. And I've heard later from the business unit manager as well as the safety manager that presentation was one of the best safety presentations they have conducted in the company. So the point that I'm trying to make here is when you have the components of a report or of a procedure, creating that procedure is not going to be a hard task. It's just a matter of filling in the blanks with the information that you have or the information that you can gather from your company procedures and policies. So in this video, you might be wondering, okay, why I'm talking about those. In this video, I'm not going to cover a training on, how to develop a presentation on a given topic, let's say a safety. No, this video is not about a safety presentation. What I'm going to talk about in this video for you is the components of the project control plan. So next time that you're assigned to develop a project control plan for your project, you know the components, and you can easily compile that report or that document together and prepare a project controls plan for your project. And in case if you don't know what a project controls plan is, make sure that you watch another video I have prepared for you entitled "What kind of a plan is a project control plan?" But just to give you a kind of high-level background on what a project control plan is, a project control plan is basically a well-defined project control execution strategy that outlines the project processes, procedures, systems, and tools that will be used by the project control team throughout the project lifecycle. And according to AAC International Practice Standard on Project Control Plan Development, they mentioned that Project Control Plan is a communication tool for establishing the project controls process. So in order to come up with the components of a project control plan, if you have a good understanding of a project control process, then we can kind of put together the project control plan. So first, let's go ahead and understand what the project control process is, what are the components of a project control process, and then we can extract information from there and develop the project controls plan. So I'm going to walk you over the project control process, and then from there I will show you the details of the components of the project controls plan. According to AAC's Total Cost Management Framework, an effective project controls process is built upon the PDCA control cycle, which is also known as Deming cycle. PDCA or Deming cycle is a method used for the controls and continuous improvement of products and services. It stands for plan, do, check, and act, and sometimes we call act as act, assess, and adjust. Now, regarding the project control process, the first stage of the project control process is project planning. In the planning stage, you plan, define, and develop the scope, time, and cost, and evaluate and assess the associated risks. So this step is really important. It's a fundamental step in forming a project baseline, basically a cost baseline, schedule baseline, and integrated project baseline. After having the plan in place and establishing the project baselines, you execute the project controls work by recording and measuring the actual cost and schedule status. This also includes progress measurement, change management, as well as risk and contingency management. The next stage of the process, which is performed hand in hand with the project control execution stage, is project performance measurement and assessment. In this step, you measure and monitor cost and schedule performance against the baseline and evaluate the health of your project, whether or not you will finish on time and within budget. After obtaining the performance results, you analyze variances and forecast the project behavior. And finally, the project status and any recommended corrective or preventive actions will be communicated with the project team members via different project controls reporting and deliverables. So this is the overall project controls process in a nutshell. Now, for the project control plan, the project controls plan should address the same components in the project controls process, plus the application of any tools or software in every stage of the process as well. Now, let me go into more detail and show you the component of the project control plan as it relates to the project control process. So, what needs to be addressed in the project control plan when it comes to the project planning stage is project scope, execution, and contracting strategy development. In the project control plan, you need to briefly describe the scope of work for the project. Also, you need to address the development and structure of the project work breakdown structure, how the overall project work breakdown structure is going to be developed, or what the structure is if that's already been provided to you. Also, you need to include a brief description of the execution strategy. Is it a standard project? Is it a fast track, shutdown project? What kind of project is it? And what's the execution strategy for the project? You also need to include a brief description of the contracting strategy. Is it going to be a self-perform project, or is it going to be we are going to hire a prime contractor? Is it going to be multiple contractor, joint ventures, and how coding structure and system will be integrated or mapped as well. So if you're using different contractors, then you also need to address the coding structure and the system integration or the mapping of those codes to your systems as well. Another thing that you need to address is the development and organization of the project control accounts. And here I'm not going to go into too much detail on what each of those items are, because it needs a course by itself, but just here to give you a brief idea of the control accounts. They are basically the control point within your WBS where you measure and monitor performance and collect actual cost. So it's very important that you determine the control accounts early on your project, and it's best if you address that on your project control plan on what's the organization of the project control accounts and how you're going to develop those. So make sure that you address them on your project controls plan as well. On risk analysis and contingency, you need to address whether formal risk analysis will be conducted to determine the cost or schedule contingency for the project, and if yes, who is going to conduct the risk workshop? Is it something that owner is going to do, or is it an independent contractor who's going to perform the cost and schedule risk analysis, or you are responsible for doing that? So make sure that you address that on project controls plan. Also, what are the target cost and schedule probability or confidence level for contingency? So for coming up with the contingency, you need to determine the confidence level. So it's better to address those on your project control plan so everybody has the same agreement on the confidence level that you want to go ahead for coming up with the contingency for the project cost and schedule. And if you're going to use time reserve to the schedule, you have to address how it's going to be done. The next point is the systems and software that you're going to use for risk analysis. What kind of tool you are going to use if you are the one who are going to perform the risk analysis, of course. And the process of recording and maintaining the risk register. Sometimes the project manager is responsible for maintaining the risk register, sometimes the owner might be. So you need to address that, who is going to record and maintain the risk register for the project. So the next point is schedule planning and development. You need to mention how the project schedule is going to be developed, validated, and baselined for this project. How the schedule basis will be documented. Also, what tools you are going to use for planning and development of the schedule. Also, you need to address the level of details that are required for the schedule development during the project, including the resource loading and leveling. Is your schedule going to be resource loaded? And if yes, so what would be the level of detail that you're going to load the resources against on your schedule? So you need to address the level of details that you're going to develop your resources and also the schedule development as well. And how the resource requirements are going to be determined to support the execution of the project. Is it based on the resource loaded schedule? If not, how you are going to address the resource address and assess the resource requirement for the project. And if you are working with different contractors, or if you're maintaining multiple schedules for the project, you need to also mention how the master schedule is going to be compiled and who is going to do that, who is going to be responsible for the master schedule, for its development and maintenance, and how you're going to integrate into the master schedule. So that also needs to be addressed as well. When it comes to cost estimating and budgeting, you need to mention the established cost estimate classification system, what kind of classification system you're going to use for your cost estimate. Also, what class of the cost estimate you are going to develop at the end of each project development phase, and how cost estimate basis will be documented, and how cost estimate will be developed. And again, here we don't want to come up with a huge procedure on how those things are going to be developed. It's just as long as you address those briefly and kind of having an agreement on your team, on how, let's say in that example, how cost estimate is going to be developed, and these things, that should be fine. We don't want a very detailed document when it comes to project controls plan. The main purpose is coming up with a strategy on how we are going to implement different elements of the project control execution. The next point is how the overall project cost estimate will be compiled and who is responsible for compiling the cost estimate. Sometimes you are gathering the data from different sources, different parties. So who is going to do that? Is this the owner who is building the total cost estimate or the TIC cost estimate for the project? Or if you are the one who is responsible, you have to address how you are going to compile that information as well. And what tool and software you're going to use for cost estimating and cost budgeting. So these are the items that, or components that you need to address in your project control plan when it comes to the project planning stage. Okay, one more point is how the cost estimate will be integrated with the schedule, which is very important because you need to have the integration between your cost estimate or your cost with the schedule. So you need to address how these two will be integrated as well. So for the next stage, which is the project control execution, on the change management, you need to address the process for managing changes from the initiation to approval of the change, whether the change is internal or external, what the process is, and for project changes versus contract changes, what the process is for managing the changes. Also, what is the method for communicating the changes to project controls? You might see in some projects, project controls is the discipline who is responsible for issuing the change orders and maintaining the change log and everything else related to the change. Sometimes you see a project coordinator or a project engineer or someone else who is assigned to the change management process of the project. But here in the project control plan, you need to address how those changes are going to be communicated to project controls if they are not the ones who are responsible for the change management process of the project. Also, what is the involvement of project controls in assessing the changes on project cost and schedule? Sometimes we do a very good job in assessing the overall change on different elements of it when it comes to the changes on the scope and also the associated cost on it, but sometimes we don't do a good job on assessing the impact of the change on the schedule. So you need to address really how you expect project controls discipline to be involved when a change is issued, and how they're going to assess the impact of the change on the project cost and schedule. Also, are you going to do a TIC cost estimate assessment on the overall project estimate for that specific change or not? Like how those things would be assessed. You need to address that in project controls plan. Also, how in-scope changes will be managed. So if there are changes within the scope of the project, how we are going to manage those changes. And at what point changes will be incorporated into the project cost and schedule. Usually they are incorporated when they are approved changes, but make sure that you address that in your project control plan. Is it okay to incorporate the changes with even a verbal approval from the owner, or how it's going to be incorporated? Just a one sentence or paragraph, as long as you cover that, should be fine. Also, the responsibilities of contractors, if you're dealing with multiple contractors, in managing and communicating the changes, how you expect them to communicate the changes to you or to document it to you, and what's the process for that. And the tools and templates for managing the changes. Are you using a tool, a software for documenting the changes and kind of going through the process of the change management? Or are you using a template? If you're using templates, you can put your template, like your change order request and different things, as an attachment to your project control plan, so everybody is clear on the process or the template of the change management process. The next point that you need to address is regarding the progress measurement. You need to mention how physical progress is going to be measured, what are the methods that you are going to use in this specific project, and what are the rules of credit that you're going to apply. Also, what are your expectations from the contractors in measuring and reporting the progress? And what is the interface between the schedule control and physical progress measurement? How you're going to incorporate the physical progress into your schedule control and progress. The next point is risk and contingency management. You need to address who manages the contingency in the project, and when contingency fund can be used and released. For example, can you use contingency for in-scope changes? Another point is how cost contingency and schedule reserve will be allocated or draw down. Sometimes you will see a contingency drawdown in a project, so you need to address how contingency is going to be released and how it's going to be allocated and drawn down, and how risk will be revisited during the project. So on the cost control element, you need to mention what tools or system or method will be used for managing and controlling the project cost, how actual cost and expenditure will be collected, and how cost forecasting is going to be performed in a project, and how project costs are going to be interfaced with the owner cost accounting system. Okay, on schedule control, you need to mention what tool or system will be used for managing and controlling the project schedule, and how the schedule is going to be updated and maintained. Also, how schedule variances will be reported, and what is the strategy around rebaselining, how changes will be incorporated into the schedule, and how resources will be tracked and forecasted. The next stage is project performance assessment. You need to address how cost and schedule performance is going to be measured in your project, especially if you're using earned value management. And what are the acceptable variance thresholds for your project cost and schedule variances? How project cost and schedule variances are measured, and how cost forecasting is performed, and how schedule analysis and forecasting is performed. For the next stage is you need to mention the scope, content, format, and responsibilities for the preparation, submittal, and approval of project reports. And that's very important because everybody needs to be clear on your format and the process of the preparation all the way to the approval of project control related reports. Also, what are the project reporting deliverables and frequency of the reporting? what I found is very useful is developing a project reporting calendar and include that as part of your project control plan. And it's basically reflecting the deliverables, the project control deliverables or report on a calendar so that everybody is clear on the expectations and in terms of delivery of the specific report or document and at what time or at what frequency. So developing a project reporting calendar is very useful, and it's good to include that as part of a project controls plan. Also, if you're going to have project control specific meetings, what are your meeting requirements and what are the frequency of your meetings? Also, what is the file structure for sorting the project files and information? And what are the project control outputs or deliverables that are required for the execution and management of the project? It can be a list or a table outlining the project control outputs or deliverables that you're going to deliver at the end of each reporting cycle or at the end of the project. Also, what tools and systems are going to use for project control reporting? So these are all the components of a project control plan that I recommend for inclusion in your project controls plan. Again, this list that I provided you is not covering everything. You might not need some of those items. You might need some extra items that are not addressed here. So but make sure that use this as a guideline for when you want to develop your project control plan. And also don't forget to check AACE's recommended practice on developing the project control plan. They came up with a very good template or outline of project control plan and the components of the plan and what should be included. That's slightly different as compared to what I have shown you here, because I centered the component of the project control plan according to project control process. What AAC has done is slightly different, but the content is basically the same. So I encourage you to check that as well. Did I overwhelm you with a big list of items for inclusion in the project controls plan? Your project controls plan doesn't need to be such a lengthy document. As long as you're clear on your approach, on your strategy when it comes to project controls execution, the tools and system that you want to use for this specific project, and your approach toward project control execution, you should be fine. In fact, if your project controls plan is short and to the point, it's even more effective. And sometimes, in support of your project controls plan, you may need to develop other processes and procedures. For example, schedule development and maintenance procedure, cost management procedure, change management procedure. So if your company already have developed some project control related procedures, then your task would be easy. It's not a hard, deliverable for you to develop the project controls plan. As long as you have those procedures and you're clear on the strategy, it's just a matter of tailoring the company's processes according to your project's needs. Now, talking about the project control plan and the amount of effort that's required to put in the plan, you might question, is it really necessary to develop a project control plan for every project, even the small project? Well, according to AAC International recommended practice on project control plan development, they mentioned that the project control development of the project control plan is considered as a success, as a leading indicator for assisting the success and delivery of the project. And if the time that if you are spending time and energy on the project control plan, that time and energy that you are investing in development and implementation of the project control plan will reduce the risks to your project and increase the success of the delivery and execution of your project. And any consideration not to include, not to implement the project control plan in part or in whole would introduce some risks to your project. So according to this recommended practice, it's better you develop a project control plan and have that strategy up front for your project. But talking about the importance and the benefits of developing a project control plan, I have to warn you that documenting the project control plan is not enough. There are other requirements that contribute to the success of the implementation of the project control plan that you need to consider. And I will cover those requirements in the next episode of Project Control Mastery. This video is already lengthy, so I don't want to take more time on this, but I will cover the requirements of the successful project control plan implementation in the next series. So for more resources on this topic, make sure that you check AAC International Recommended Practice on Project Control Development. That's a very good document. Make sure you check it out. There's another resource which is a paper on the importance of project control plan development. And also there are some modules on Guild of Project Controls reference that you can check as well. So if you have any comment or question on this topic, please make sure that you write them down below so I can answer those questions or comments. And if you found this video valuable, please give me a high five and by liking this video and sharing it with your connections. Until next time, do your best in everything that you do, my friend, and make a difference. Hi, this is GHORBANI again. I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it added value to you, and I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, and if you want to be notified for any future videos that I release, just do me a favor and hit the subscribe button down below so that you get the notification as soon as I release a new video training. I normally release such trainings on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and I want you to be one of the first ones who get notified as soon as I release a video training. And second things I wanted to tell you is about my 10-day free training on project controls, on how you can start and step up in project controls, how you can accelerate your growth in project controls, what is the ladder of success in project controls, and my journey in project controls, on how I started and where I am right now, my secrets and the secrets of project control industry, and much more. So if you're interested in that training, if you want to advance in project controls, I highly recommend you to watch this training. If you want to get into project control, this training is also for you, and the good news is it's free of cost, so you can have access to my 10-day free training on project controls by enrolling for free. The link to this training is posted here in this video, so check it out. Just put your name and email so I can send you immediately series of training videos in your mailbox so you can watch them, ask questions from me, so I can support you further than just these YouTube videos that you see. So I hope you can join me by clicking on the link or putting the link on your browser and entering your name and email so I can send you my 10-day free training on project control. Thanks again for watching this video. I look forward to serving you in future videos. Until next time, as always, do your best in everything that you do, commit to excellence, and make a difference in your career.